Now, there is a crisis of homelessness that's happening in America. Now, rents have continued to rise, costs of living have increases, while wages, of course, continue to remain fairly stagnant. Uh, and because of that, you have a number of people in big cities that are becoming homeless. Now, one of the many problems that goes along with homelessness is the fact that it is bringing back infectious diseases that are, um, or that have once ravaged populations in the Middle Ages. So we are literally going back to the Middle Ages here. Now, this is according to a report in the Atlantic. Los Angeles recently experienced an outbreak of something called typhus. Now, typhus is disease spread by infected fleas on rats and other animals, and this has been happening in downtown streets. People in Washington state have also been infected with, the Shigella bacteria. Now, Shigella is spread through feces and causes the diarrheal disease shigellosis, as well as Bartonella quintana or trench fever, which spreads through lice. So those are some of the diseases, and there are others, of course, like hepatitis A, which is again spread through feces, and has infected actually more than 1,000 people in Southern California in the last couple of years. Now, you also have disease outbreaks in New Mexico, Ohio, Kentucky, primarily among people who are homeless or have substance abuse problems. Now, these diseases are exacerbated by large populations of homeless people in one area without health care and have unfortunately become a public health crisis. So, now, these diseases, by the way, according to the Atlantic, have flared as the nation's homeless population has grown in the past 2 years. About 553,000 people were homeless at the end of 2018, and nearly one quarter of homeless people live in California. And these diseases, they explain, spread quickly and widely among people living outside or even in shelters, helped along by sidewalks contaminated with human feces, crowded living conditions, weakened immune systems, and limited access to health care. So this is disastrous. One physician, Glenn Lopez, was quoted as saying, quote, "The hygiene situation in these camps is just horrendous." He continues by saying, "It becomes just like a third world environment where the human feces contaminate the areas where they're eating and sleeping." So now, if you're someone who doesn't care about homeless people, well, you might want to be concerned because, after all, this actually is your problem as well. Those infectious diseases are not limited to homeless populations. Lopez warns that even someone who believes they are protected from these infections is not. One example of that is that at least one LA city staffer contracted typhus in City Hall last fall. Now, that could be you next. Now, San Diego County, for example, their officials warned in 2017 that diners at a well known restaurant were also at risk for hepatitis A. In fact, there were also 167 cases of typhus from January 1st, 2018 through February 1st of this year, up from 125 in 2013 and just 13 in 2008, according to the California Public Health Department. So now what happens? Well, the homeless population boomed after the financial crisis. Following decades of wage stagnation, rising rents, insane home prices, lack of health care, including mental health care, well, that's what happened. And now they're living in areas where there's too many people, and of course, garbage and feces and stuff gets everywhere. Those are the places, of course, that attract rats and of course, fleas and other animals. And there's also been a huge problem with hepatitis A in California. According to the state-run public health department, 21 people have died as a result of the 2017-2018 outbreak that had happened. But it's not just in California, of course, it happens in other places with higher homeless populations. For example, New York City. New York City has not experienced the same outbreaks of hepatitis A and typhus, but there are other problems there. Now, this is according to Kelly Doran, an emergency medicine physician and assistant professor at New York University. Doran said different infections occur in shelters, including tuberculosis. These diseases, by the way, are referred to, if you take them as a whole, typhus, hepatitis A, tuberculosis. They're basically considered to be medieval because that's what we used to see in large part back in the Middle Ages. We're not living in the Middle Ages. We're living in 2019. But yet we are having these diseases make a comeback because we have places where there are people that don't have homes and cannot get mental health care or any kind of health care. So that's, again, disastrous. In fact, people living on the streets or in homeless shelters are more vulnerable to such outbreaks. Why? Weakened immune systems that are worsened by stress, malnutrition, and sleep deprivation. Again, there are people with mental illness, substance abuse disorders that make it very hard for them to stay healthy or get health care or get homes. So that's a big problem here. Now, right now, we have more empty homes than we have homeless people. We have the most billionaires as well in this country. The richest 3 people have more wealth than the bottom half of society. So why do we have homeless people? Well, there's one simple answer. Greed. Corporations and the wealthy want to keep stuff in their pockets with more money, as opposed to using money to solve the problems. Now, I'm not saying that all millionaires are the same. No, they're great people, lots of money, that actually give a lot of money to homelessness. And it's not just, Democrats that are good, Republicans that are bad. No. There are a lot of Democrats, liberals, that see the homeless problem as, well, there are homeless people here and I want them removed. Out of sight, out of mind. I did a story years ago about a politician, a Democratic politician in Hawaii, that went around stealing homeless people's shopping carts and smashing them in front of them. Again, what little they own, smashed. And then, of course, you have benches that are blocked so people can't sleep on them, spikes being put up in corners so people can't sleep. This is what both sides are doing. They are ignoring homelessness completely. And look, I know. There are people that think that this is okay. No, it's great. They deserve what they get. You're poor. We should punish you more for being poor, lazy, and irresponsible. Of course, right? But I believe that in America, in the greatest country in the world, there is no reason that we cannot provide homes for homeless people and health care to everyone who needs it. We can do that. You know why? Because we are great. Healthcare and, yes, shelter is actually a human right. We should all have shelter. And of course, I know people are already going to give me a negative response because they don't care about other human beings. Well, that sucks for you. And I'd hate to be you. And again, there are people out there that think we should punish the poor for being poor. But again, doing that actually ends up punishing ourselves as well. In effect, we get these horrible diseases that make a comeback in society. And for those, again, who don't want to see homeless people around instead of solve the problem, well, look, that's their solution, right? But I think instead of dumping them off somewhere and putting spikes all over the ground and designing benches you can't sleep or sit on, and basically finding new and clever ways to be horrible, maybe we should, do something to help these people. I mean, come on. Utah did it. Utah's very conservative, but it ended up saving them money, and it actually helped these people. Giving people homes, addressing massive income and wealth disparity, boosting wages, guaranteeing health care, it's a no-brainer, man. It will put a huge dent in the homeless population, actually solve the issue of tent cities that burn with disease, and it actually will also make our streets cleaner, safer, and do it all while doing the right thing and helping human beings. The only thing that's stopping us is greed. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.